Welcome back, everyone. This is our second game since getting back together as a group. So we're fighting the Battle of Raszyn, 1809. So it's Prince Poniatowski. He's sitting over there. I'm zooming in on him. There he is there. That's Raszyn. Garrisoned by Saxons. There's some artillery over there. Come down here. Got some Polish Uhlans. That's Rosniecki's Cavalry Brigade. Sitting over there. Alright, I'm slowly going to pan around here. So sitting there is the Polish Advance Guard. It's occupying that little village, which is a strong point, as is Raszyn. And the one over here, which is, you have to forgive my pronunciations, Jarrow, I think so. Not so good on this. Over here, we have the advance guard of the Austrians under Archduke Ferdinand d'Este, and behind that we have the Cavalry Reserve, which is also on the table. Cavalry Reserve is Hussars and Cuirassiers, which should make life interesting. Now I'm going to show you, so these lovely figures here, and they're not coming up too well there, are they? So these are all minifigs. Lovely minifigs. Of course, there's the smattering baby in the background, but beautifully painted minifigs. This collection probably dates back to the 80s. They belong to Anton, who's one of our players tonight. There's another 4 brigades just behind me, but you'll see them as they come on. And there's the other Polish brigade sitting over there of a couple of battalions sitting there. So the objective for this game, as we've seen with most GDA battles, is to break brigades. This is a little different. So we're playing a victory point option. So the river line is impassable. Only way across are the 3 bridges. The Austrians will be allowed to place a ford between the 2 left and right towns. So anywhere within that area they can place a ford. Then the Poles, they have an option, well, not necessarily an option, but they will have a bag of chits, which they now will select 1 chit per turn, and they may opt to remove one of the flanking bridges, which they did historically. Of course, if the Austrians get there quick enough, they can contest this. So this is a random event, so they need to pick a designated number from 10 chits over 10 turns. And they will not say a word about which bridge they're doing and when it goes off unusable. Up until the point that the Austrians get within 2 normal moves of a bridge, then they'll get in line of sight, and if the Poles are in contact with that bridge and doing some shenanigans, they will declare it, at which time the Austrians probably want to contest a crossing fairly quickly. So we're going to see how we play with this one. We have tried this. I'll just take you the length of the table. So we are playing on a 10 by 6, mostly because we need the space and the ability to manoeuvre. And historically, Raszyn and those 2 flanking towns were nearly 2 kilometres away from the centre point of this table. So obviously we don't have that space, because that will be you need a 4-metre table and then some. So there's the Poles sitting in there. So there's all the ADCs. There's that Saxon Grenadiers, and there's some Polish infantry behind. So with this particular scenario, Archduke has 5 ADCs for this game. Podintovsky has 5 brigades, plus I'm classifying Podintovsky as a tactician under GDA. That gives him an additional 3 ADCs. The reasoning for that is, I guess Podintovsky did fight pretty well here. These are pretty decent troops for the Poles. Many people may disagree, argue the fact. Polish Grand Duchy of Warsaw has only been around since 1807. This is 1809, so it's 2 years. But a lot of these Polish troops are from the Polish legions, which fought in Italy. So a lot of them have returned home. So we'll see how we go. I'll be filming during the evening. This is a 20-turn game. Hoping to smash it out as much as possible tonight. And we'll see how we roll. And of course, any questions, guys? I enjoy the polls. I'm writing several scenarios for them. This is just one. So we've got some quirks. For instance, Polish artillery. This is a fairly important artillery battle. The Polish artillery did break up several Austrian attacks. So in this particular game, if the Polish artillery roll high enough to have a discipline test on their target, then they will get 1 CD extra to get an extra casualty. So that's their bonus. And you will find that most of the Poles here I've given them, they're pretty good quality. High morale. We've got to take into consideration that there is probably quite a few veterans here as well as some probably recruits. But even so, there is definitely a nationalist zeal for the Poles. After all, they've got what they wanted. They've got independence. The Austrians are here to take it away essentially and knock them out. The Poles aren't going to give up easily. They want their own country. And as we all know, this is a long part of history for Poland. So they're here to fight. And whilst historically they did fight, they did withdraw. The Austrians did get to Warsaw. They certainly didn't stay. The Poles certainly whittled away in the background. So we'll see what happens. Okay, turn 1. All the Polish are active. I'm zooming in. The Cavalry Brigade is shaken out into very long lines. Austrian cuirassiers went hesitant. Their light brigade is active, but they're not going to come forward. And over here, Terry the Austrian. He's betrayed me for the evening. He's usually a Frenchman. He's got the advanced guard. They're on infantry assault, so they're streaming forward over that hedgerow, which is actually rough ground, so it's going to slow them down a little. So that's turn 1. Very quick turn.
We'll go over here to cover the flank if we need
Right, turn 2, firing. This beloved battery here rolled 6 and 10, causing a lot of casualties on gun battery over here. And that was pretty much, and then this gun battery took some casualties as well. So we're heavy on artillery. We'll see how we go. All right.
And we get another one come on.
All right, turn 2. Just finished firing. Matt's doing exceedingly well with this battery over here. He has punished this particular battery. Casualty there, and the Polish artillery has hurt the Grenzers. They've retreated, caused it unformed, which is going to slow them down. But as we see, Austrians, and Terry's hand has come on the table. And the cuirassiers got their mojo up and they're coming forward to greet that massive Polish cavalry. So beginning at turn 3. Austrians are bringing on more reserves. There's a lot of Austrians there. Now they put their forward over here. There it is there. So they're going to try and make their push. So we've only got a very, very small brigade over here. Large brigade in the middle, but yeah, it looks like the push is on. We'll probably have a cavalry contact soon. Okay, so we're at the beginning of turn 4, gents. The Austrian cuirassiers here have declared the charge. The Austrians had the initiative. They charged forward, rolled a 6. The Poles rolled a 6. So it came down to a melee, but the Austrians opted to go for a re-roll. They rolled a 6, taking theirs to 10. Now the Poles had 2 supports here because unfortunately the other cavalry charge didn't quite make it. So the Poles re-rolled both dice. We came up with a 9. We have a +1, so it's a 10. So we're at 10-10. So the Poles have countercharged. So we're going to have a melee between the cuirassiers and the Polish Uhlans. It's going to get very interesting. I'll just walk down the table. Terry's reading the Austrians. So they've stacked their right flank. There's a big brigade out there. You've got the assault. They're still on the flanks. They're moving on Valente. They've also the artillery on the far side here is on artillery assault. They are attempting to remove these batteries sitting over here. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so we've just done the melee. So it was 7 casualty dice to the Austrians, to the Polish 8. And I'll work through that very quickly because it's heavy cavalry, so it's 7. The Polish are a grade high, which gave them 6. They've come in with glory, which is 7. And they're large, 8. So Anton has rolled 3 casualties, and the Poles rolled 6 casualties. So the Cuirassier Brigade is pretty hammered. The brigade has routed, so they will go into, I guess that's a falter on them as well. So we've probably got off lucky there. I'll quickly come back. Anton over here to my right has had a quick read, and we've put the supporting unit back on the table. Well, not on the table, but it hasn't actually routed. It's sitting back there. There it is, as unformed as its friendly unit in the front has routed and burst through. So we'll see how this pans out now. So this is the beginning of 10-6.
Yep.
So the Austrians are bringing on yet another brigade. I think this is the last Austrian infantry brigade. So we have got, and I might grab, Matt could pass me the big stick. I'm going to point things out so everyone can see. So we have 1 brigade here, the latest reserve brigade. This brigade has faltered. As you might remember, there was a battery sitting here. It was on 6 casualties. Terry had it on assault fire against these guys here, this Polish battery here, and I believe Terry rolled something like a 3, and with a -2 gives him a 1, causing himself 2 casualties because they're on assault fire, thus removing the battery. That battery is part of the advanced guard brigade, which of course then makes the brigade falter. And then of course we've got another brigade here, which is on the forwards order, it's trying to get forward. And over here, obviously, they are unformed. They're going to attempt to rally. They are unformed because they failed to get to contact. Let's see what the Polish cavalry is in pretty good nick. See what we can do. It would appear, look, they might get in here. This will be the fight. This is only turn 6. It's a 20-turn game. We've got an hour and a half tops left before we're going to call it quits, and then we'll see what we think, whether we need to make any changes to this scenario, what the general feeling is. But you see that the Austrians have stacked their right flank. But if they cave way to the cavalry, I mean, the Austrian infantry brigade can really hold off the Polish cavalry if it's in good order. So that's the saving grace for all those large battalions sitting over here. All right, I'll take that over here. So this is turn 6. So turn 6, Poles had the initiative. We went, obviously the Polish cavalry has opted to have a crack again. So well, unfortunately you've missed out on us doing the charges, so I'll get my big stick here. So this was the unit up the front, up here. And we've done the charges, and the Polish cavalry won by 6, causing this unit to rout. Because we such a big result, we have charged on, impacted the unformed cuirassier behind, and they've rolled pretty well. So we've actually got a melee here. So it's unformed versus we have elan. Then over here we've had another. The Poles have again charged forward. Wasn't a very big charge forward, and we both rolled pretty averagely. We took our support re-rolls, and again, I think the Poles won by 5, but that still gives us an elan result versus an unformed result. So we've got 2 melees. Now, as part of our little hidden rule for the Poles, and I'm going to go down there, you see the little smoke there. We have 10 chits that we've been choosing 1 chit every turn up until the point once the Austrians are within 2 normal moves of a bridge, they can see what we're doing, and they have sighted us doing shenanigans to that bridge, and the Poles have essentially dismantled it, therefore they cannot cross it. But they still have the ford, and as you can see, it's interesting that the Austrians have stacked that right flank, but now they've only got 1 crossing point. Mind you, we've only got 3 battalions facing probably about 18. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so this is charges for turn. This is a charges for turn 6, just under the results. So the Polish cavalry here was fighting these guys here, and they've lost. We've rolled 8 dice and only got 1 casualty. They've rolled their 5 dice, got 2. They've won it, we have retreated, unforming them. So this makes life interesting, but they have 7 casualties, and they're at rout. We've also just fought this melee over here. The Poles have caused 6 casualties versus 4, so the Austrians have retreated through their next one, and we have fallen back to our own lines, which is just about there, and we've taken 4 casualties. So just proves, I guess, under the game that whilst I think the Poles probably were confident they would clean out. Matt nods, and I agree, we were pretty confident to clean house. We rolled dismally bad on their melee dice, and I'm renowned for that. And that's going to get interesting again. Right, turn 8, we're just doing movement. The Poles at this town is stagnant, they've got no infantry in front of them. So what's happened that turn is they have failed to recover from a fault
across here. You can shoot the gun out like they done to us that time.
And 1 cuirassier has dispersed. The other one is right on the table edge faltering. And the Poles are recovering. Heading over here.
You're going to move the guns up and then unlimber here?
That's where I'm trying to this cavalry.
Whatever.
So we've got a lot of support there, so we'll see how we go. The horse battery has moved up. I'm trying to put some fire up there. And just coming over here, the Austrians have actually, since they're on infantry assault orders, they've put a charge into the town there. It is a strong point, so it's only 1 battalion. And over here, Terry's trying to be really sneaky. Hell, this cavalry is thundering forward here.
Take the brigade right up next to the gun battery, one of them.
Just update from the melees here. So we've had the melee here. The unit at the back there of the Austrians has retreated. So we've just won that. Didn't quite get the result we wanted. We needed the rout there. And heading over here, the Austrians did attack the strong point. Only caused the strong point 1 casualty, and the Poles rolled 3 6s and saw the Austrians retreat. But as we look over here, the gun line is coming. It's going to get nasty.
Yeah, they're up here. Right there.
Right, so we've had charges for turn 8, turn 9. The cuirassiers are coming up against the Polish chasseurs. So there's a melee there.
What about the cavalry? What are you doing with them? Riding them over?
Over here,
Yeah, they've moved.
Austrians have come forward again. They rolled exceptionally well.
Wasn't
Had a
that
9.
last turn?
I rolled snake eyes,
No, it didn't check.
but I had a re-roll and I rolled a 6. So it saved my bacon, otherwise it was going to be a rout. So we're going to stand and fight that. We've got a horse battery here.
You rolled for
Caused them
have
some
you rolled
grief.
a dice for them?
And on the far side,
So you've
the
chucked them
Austrian
in all
cavalry hussars have formed
2 units.
a much column. They're going to try and get across the field.
So you can go into a big unit.
We have moved the small hussar regiment to face them. We've also got our reserves on. It's another Polish chasseur regiment.
I reckon artillery
But this gun battery here
into
is
that.
moving away. We're opting to take the
Those into that.
emergency limber.
One into
Taking the
that.
fatigue cushion takes us to 7. The reason for that is that gun battery is owned by this brigade, and if it goes falter, that could cause us some grief to hold that town. So let's see how we go. Okay guys, we've called it a night, so this will be part 1. So we've had some shooting over here. I'll just walk around the table. We'll reconvene later for the second round. It's getting a bit latish, so as you can see we've got a lot of Austrian guns down here. They rolled pretty well. Obviously another big Austrian brigade. And yet another Austrian brigade. So they have put one assault in against the town there. It's bounced, but they're obviously going to get ready to go in. That Grenz unit there copped a fair bit of stick. Matty rolled quite well with the artillery. So we're bugging out the Polish battery because we don't want to see that brigade here falter. So we've taken the emergency limber and chugged out. As you can see, we've got this unit. They're going to try and get across that ford. So we'll see what we can do here. We've got this battalion coming up. It'll form line probably behind that hedgerow. But we do have a fairly large chasseur unit, which I'll slowly zoom in on for you, which is going to try and trundle up. We do have a small regiment of the SARS also on intercept mode. We're going to try and stop that. But now this brigade in particular is part of the attack on that village. So it's probably, if they do bring it across, it may cause them some grief, because if we beat it thoroughly and rout it, it'll make that brigade falter. It's just going to hold that attack up. So really, they've got 11 turns to try and get to Raszyn. Now over here, this brigade's sort of sitting pretty. It's going to support the attack into that town. Now they have deployed 2 battalions facing this cavalry. So we've had the cavalry skirmish. As you can see there, they are in retreat mode. They have a lot of casualties. 12. This unit up here though is fresh. So look, it's going to get interesting. This regiment here, I'll just pan down a little. The chasseurs, look, they're on 5 casualties and they're unformed. They fought 2 melee rounds of melee against the Austrian cuirassiers and have eliminated them. We've caused them enough casualties to see them disperse. So the Austrian cuirassier brigade is null and void for this game, so that it's broken. So look, whilst the Poles do have the cavalry advantage, we've got 5 casualties, 5 casualties, and their other Uhlans over here is on 8. So in all seriousness, this Austrian cavalry on its own could potentially cause us some grief. But we do have the horse battery up here, which we're having a peg at that battalion there. It's in column, we're in effective range, so it's going to get quite interesting. So I'll just pan over. Well, we'll zoom out here, there we go. So that little brigade there, obviously it's pretty much out on its own. it'll probably play no part in the battle unless our cavalry cleans up this flank. We might redeploy it to the far side and rush it over. But as you can see, they've stacked that side. So we've had a bit of a discussion. We thought, what happens if the Austrians had deployed some infantry in this zone here? And they're a bit concerned about the cavalry. But like I said, under GDA, brigades walking in column or marching in column are fairly impervious to cavalry charges, particularly if they're heavily supported. So perhaps they could have nullified the Polish advantage, because what we've ended up is we've got a 10-foot table here, so this whole area is vacant, and they haven't opted to attack that village, and it's not a fortress. Mind you, you still have to go across the bridge in a march column and hit the town, so it's still a one column attack. But they have bunched themselves over here. Look, they've got a massive artillery, which is quite troublesome for the Poles now. Our artillery is quite hurt. They're probably going to dominate, but it could take them a long time to get across that ford with anything that can actually get to Raszyn and attack. So we'll see how we go. Hope you enjoy part 1, and we'll be back next time.